Peter Bluesbach. Here. Scott Gergen.
Here.
Lisa Deeb.
Here.
Dave Pemble.
Here.
Russ Phillip. Here. Kissy Weeks.
Here.
And Superintendent Collins.
Here.
Terrific. Could I get a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Could I get a motion and a second to approve the minutes of our May 23rd, 2018 regular board meeting?
Motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion? I didn't find anything. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Could I get a motion and a second to approve the bills payable?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. With that, let's move to our superintendent's report.
Yeah. Technology plan, you have it in front of you. I'm going to take some time to go through it lightly with you. One of the 3 goals for me this year was to develop a 5-year technology plan. And I'd say it's 90% finalized. Part of it was to hear some feedback from you as I walk through it. And also now I need to meet with Missy Williams and our administrative team to get it finalized. But a lot of this comes from sitting in on the tech committee meetings, being involved in our technology and the direction that we're going over the years. And then also over the year, I probably looked at 10 to 12 different technology plans from other districts. And quite honestly, some of them don't have a technology plan either. And one of the things that I found out is that most of them are shying away from a 5-year plan because they believe that by the time they got to 4th year, they were changing so much. So what I'm proposing is a 3-year plan, but definitely with a strong vision of where I believe this district needs to go in year 4 and 5. And so the first page is just kind of to let you and our administrators and our staff know some of the thinking that went into the plan. And so part of it ties into what we've been doing with technology. Kim probably knows this year better than I do, but maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, we set aside about $1 million to $1.2 million in a committed account for technology. And over the years, if our budget came over a little bit, Missy would come to me and say, Tim, we're about 70,000 short for Chromebooks. Can that fund it? Yes, so we would take it out of that committed. Mark Moberg would come to me and say, hey, we've got a server that went down. It's gonna cost $100,000. Can we take it out of there? Yes. So over that period of time, at the end of this year, it's gonna be right around $700,000 that is still sitting there. As a board, when we did that, we also said, and we gave direction to Kim, that every year we would take $100,000 out of our general fund and put $100,000 back into that fund. So part of the philosophy of this plan is, okay, we have $700,000 sitting there. The community, thank you community, gave us $1.2 million for technology in the bond. So each year for the next 3 years, we're going to take $400,000 from that bond towards technology, mainly infrastructure improvement. I believe then that with the fact that our high school roof came in under budget, we have a contingency built up. I believe at the end of 3 years here, we're going to have some contingency money sitting around. And I'm going to, at that point, highly recommend to you as a board to take some of that contingency and use that for technology in years 4 and 5. My whole goal in this plan is to get us to the year 2023. That's when the operating levy, the next operating levy has to be renewed. And I believe that Hastings at that point in time won't be able to, I don't believe any school district in the state of Minnesota will be able to operate without a technology levy as well. So my goal is, many districts have technology levies right now. So my goal is to get us to 2023, renew that levy, and have a technology levy as well. So if we're using bond dollars to help pay for technology, each year then $100,000 over the next 5 years is going to go into that committed as well. So by 5 years from now, we should have $1.2 million sitting in this committed. And part of that philosophy is, if that tech levy would get defeated in 2023, then at least there is a reserve to carry us, because I would recommend the board then go out to next year for a tech levy in the next year. And so there'd be some committed dollars there to help if it would get defeated. I don't think it will get defeated, because I believe by then every citizen will understand we need that technology. So as you walk through this plan, that's kind of the revenue and the funding source and the thoughts behind it. Also, as I looked at this, I do believe that it's now time that we as a district do have some minimum expectations for our teaching staff. I don't know what those are yet, but for those of you who are parents and have had your children go through the high school on Schoology, if we're going to use Schoology, then I believe that every teacher should use Schoology to this level. And now I know some teachers are going to use it to this level, and some teachers are going to use it to this level. But we as a district should set a minimum expectations and give the training so that all teachers, and so it doesn't matter what classroom your child is in at the high school. And I'm starting with the high school first. Whatever class it might be, you can expect the same expectation through that use of technology. So you'll see that embedded in this 3-year plan as well. And then I told Missy that I believe that the plan should be every year, Missy Williams, who's our Director of Technology, should come to a board meeting, probably in August or September, and give a half-an-hour presentation, not only to use a board, but because it's being televised to the community, on what are some of the initiatives that we did over the summer, and what are some of our initiatives for the upcoming year, both on infrastructure and expectations. Then if you get to the next, any questions on that so far?
No.
And I know that 3 of you heard some of this from me when we reviewed my goals for the year. So then the next 3 years kind of give you a feel for some of the things that we're going to do. And in some years, it builds on the next year. And so I'm going to give you an example. So item C, when I went looking at other tech plans, I kept reading about single sign-on, and I had no idea what that meant. So then I came to Missy and said, what does single sign-on mean? And she kind of chuckled because she felt that, come on, Tim. She goes, it's really what it says, that right now we have different passwords and different names and different codes for whether a staff member has to go into ASOP, whether a staff member has to go into Time Clock Plus or Schoology or whatever. Single sign-on basically means we have the same access code. It simplifies it, it makes it more efficient. Same thing with a parent. Whether you'd go on to Schoology or whether you'd go on to pay for your kid's meal or whatever it might be, that's what would get you in. And she said it's more expensive, but I said, well, I see quite a few schools are going to it. And she said, yeah, almost all schools are going to it. So you'll see that in this year, we evaluate what single sign-on firm or vendor we'd go with. And then you'll see in 1920, somewhere I say implement it. So there's a lot of sequence in it. Some of the ones that I and J, I started to see in quite a few of the others. We've surveyed our families on technology access before, we just haven't done it recently. So that we'd do a survey this upcoming year on that. We haven't surveyed our staff a lot, and I saw that in a lot of other tech plans on, give us some feedback on the usage. How simple is it to you? How often do you use it? Why don't you use it? Do you feel you're trained enough? So that type of survey that other districts are using. Item L, we've been analyzing computer labs. Do we need them or don't we need them? And we need to continue analyzing that. In some cases, we need them for the MCA testing, but also you can use Chromebooks, and we've done some of that at the middle school and the high school where the Chromebooks can be used. So, how many labs do we really need? We're going to finalize that. Then I said at our high school, I want to have a group of high school kids who can go around and help staff members on whatever technology that it would be, and they would know who those students are. So I'd say those are the main highlights. A lot of the other is infrastructure, whether it be firewalls, whether it be servers, whether it be routers, whether it be replacing the elementary. you see the 3-year plan, we first do the elementary computers, then we do either the middle school or the high school computers, and then we do the next round of computers. Item A in 2019-20, that's going to be the last year of our internet. We're in a 3-year contract with Ties for our internet, and so we'll be analyzing who we go to. And I add in there that we should really look to reach out to the county and the city and say, maybe we bid it all out together, the 3 of us, if we can. Again, in that one, smart boards, I'm not saying we should replace smart boards with smart boards, but we need to start to analyze, is it going to be smart boards that we're using, or are we going to go a different direction? We need to do a security audit. We haven't done a security audit, I'll just say, in a long time. And the plan is that we would do it every 3 years. So in year 1, we analyze it, which firm we're going to go with. Year 2, we do it, the audit, cybersecurity, and then 3 years from that date, we plan to do it again so that we're always on track doing it. And then you get down into L, M, and N. Quite honestly, I saw those L and M in the Bloomington School District for the year 2017-18 that just finished. So I believe that if Bloomington students are doing it in 2017-18, we can reach that goal in 2019 and 2020. I also want to create a rubric for just analyzing what are the technology skills of a teacher, and I'm not picking on Ann, but Ann's here, so if I'm her principal, I'd maybe sit down with her, and at her formal evaluation, I'd say, Ann, you're really good at teaching to the standard, you're really good at having students connect with one another, you're great with follow-up and common assessment. But on my rubric review of technology, you're a little weak there. These are some areas where I think you need to improve in your use of technology, to give her some feedback in that area. And then, of course, then us having the opportunity to give the training to get her up to that rubric of where we need to be. Then in year 3, I'm not going to read them all. Some of them are just redundant from the other pages. I think H, 90% of high school seniors will graduate having taken a course with a major online component. Now that might be that I have you in class on Thursday, we have some small group discussion on a certain subject, and at the end of the class I say to you, tonight you need to log on and take a 5-point quiz on what we just discussed. It'll take you 3 minutes. Not going to take a lot of time, but you have to log on and take the quiz. The next week, I might say, we had a great discussion. The 2 of you hop online together and write a paragraph together on what you just discussed. The 2 of you get together online, the 2 of you get together online. So when I say major component, it's not like the whole class will be online, but a lot of components of online learning will be there for our students. I want to go back to 2019 and 20. I also, in that year, that our high school students, for sure, on a snow day, they will need to log on a snow day for an activity from their class. We're seeing that all the time now. Whenever there's a snow day, it'll flash across Farmington, but learning day at home. I'm still not convinced that a kindergartner or a first grader can have a great learning experience on a snow day via technology, but I do think a high school senior, junior, sophomore, and freshman can have a learning. So again, learning experience. So again, it's a 3-year technology plan. And what I wanted to do in it, when I helped draft it and craft it, when I looked at some of the other technology plans, there were a lot of philosophical statements. And I mentioned this, some of the school districts, the other board members. It was more written like, we have a vision to create digital learners by the year 2021. We have a vision to give everyone an online experience by such and such a date. We have a vision to have digital citizens show the respect and for, blah, blah, blah. That meant nothing to me. It was more, I wanted some things that we could say, yes, this is what we're going to do. So again, I need to now bring it to Missy and the administrators this summer, and then bring it back to you probably in August and say this is the direction that we are going to go. Any other questions on it?
I just had a quick clarification. When you're surveying families on technology access, is that looking at things like the percentage of families that have Wi-Fi in their home?
Yep.
And that sort of thing?
Right.
Okay.
Because then it's going to tie into, if I'm expecting on a snow day, but you're at home and you don't have Wi-Fi, then we need to know that for sure, because then you can't experience that learning day. And so then, I believe it's going to be that we're going to probably be at about 95% will have access. And some of them will say, and probably in the survey, I don't have it at home, but I live 2 blocks from this restaurant or Dakota County Library, and we can go there if we need it. So we'll get some of that too. But yeah, that's exactly what some of the questions will be. Any other questions? Okay. The middle school gym locker rooms, we had our first meeting, and I didn't, the facility committee board members weren't there. I wanted it just to, there were FIAD teachers there, Jim Rohr was there as the athletic director, there were principals there, I was there. I had shared some of our thoughts from our tours of Shakopee and Edina, what we as board members had thought about handicapped accessible bathrooms, trying to give more privacy to the showers, and talked about some of those things. And so I just wanted to share 2 to 3 things that really stuck out at that meeting that we had a couple weeks ago. And we have a meeting coming up at 1 o'clock on Tuesday for the facility committee members. And I know 2 of you for sure said that you could be there. I know that if all 3 can't be there, Dave was an alternate. Peter, can you be there? Or? Okay. And Joe, can you be? I think, and Russ. So I'll just talk about the gymnasium first. And when we went to Edina, we saw the perfect example of a 3-gym gymnasium where now, right now we have bleachers on one end and then kind of in the middle. They have it how ours is going to be, bleachers on the far end. Well, for those of you who are at middle school graduation, picture middle school graduation now with the set of bleachers back even another 40 feet. It won't be quite as homey, so to speak. But it'll definitely be better for FIAD usage, basketball game usage, safety, wear and tear on custodians' backs to pull the bleachers out, etc. So Wold said, tell us more on why you want 2 sets of bleachers. How often do you possibly use them? And they told us 2 middle schools right now that aren't putting in any bleachers whatsoever. They're just putting a row of like 3 bleachers for the people who come to volleyball games, or they come to the basketball games, and there's maybe 50 people at those games. And so we said back that, well, we use it for graduation, and then when we bring in, we have a big youth wrestling tournament where we only pull out 1 of the bleachers, and then we use it for lyceums for our middle school. And so then they asked, of course, the next question, well, if you only pull out 1 set of bleachers for wrestling, maybe you could only do that for lyceums. Well, what would we do for graduation then? So then they said, so you're going to put in 2 full sets of bleachers just for graduation. So anyway, these are some of the questions that you as board members are going to have. They're going to, at that facility committee. So they left that meeting trying to analyze and look at how many people could fit in 1 set of bleachers if they made them a little extra longer. They said one of the big changes though is going to be your bleachers right now aren't up to code. You need so many walkways. Your bleachers don't have that right now. People just sit, if you've ever seen those bleachers in there, they're all wood, and you can sit everywhere. And they said, so you need to have more walkways, but so that's part of the discussion, and I shared that and the principals didn't agree with me. I'll be upfront with that, right? Because if they're watching this, I want them to know that. So I said, let's say it could hold it. We have 1,300 students. Let's say it can hold 1,000 students on the bleachers. Fifth graders in elementary schools are used to coming into a lyceum and sitting on the floor. When I taught at JFK Elementary, whenever we had a lyceum, fifth grade, some kids sat in the chairs, some kids sat on the floor. So I said, I think that a lyceum, if we really needed it, we could bring in chairs on the side, and then we could have some kids sitting on the floor. We could still make it work for that. I wouldn't be able to guess how many, think in your mind, how many people would you think were at the middle school graduation? We had 340 students graduating. So if there were 2 parents for everyone, that's 680. Some grandparents, so if there were 4 people there for each student, or 5. So anyway, that's what we as a board have to, it really isn't the money issue. They said a set of bleachers is probably 50 grand for each set of bleachers. We'll just push back and said, you're not going to have the same feel for graduation. We're just telling you that because they won't come out as far. So you can be thinking about that before our Tuesday meeting. The other thing that we spent some time talking about is that our locker rooms, because this used to be a high school, we have 4, and as we've walked this, we have 4 core locker rooms, shower rooms, 2 for boys for Phi-Ed, 2 for female students for Phi-Ed, and then we have the 2 lockers. We're fortunate compared to any other middle school. We have the 2 locker rooms that if you go even down further by the dungeon that we use for football and wrestling. And when we went on tour, we all said that we don't need to put showers in both of those locker rooms if it's only football that's going down there and only wrestling that's going down there. They can use the same showers. Well, Scott brought up that they hadn't thought of this, but Title IX says that you need the same number of locker rooms and locker room space for female and male. So he said that, we said, well, we don't have any other female sport that would use it in the winter or in the fall. He says, yeah, I'm just telling you that Title IX says that you need to do something for female and male. So we talked about, and we were thinking about this anyway, down in those lower 2 locker rooms, of centralizing the showers anyway. So we're right now there's a set of showers on one side that get used, and the other ones don't really get used, but they're there. So we were talking about centralizing them anyway and making the stalls where you could close the door behind you. And so Scott was going to check on that if we centralize them and said that one was a locker room for both female sports or male sports, could we do it that way? And so he's going to get back to us when we meet on Tuesday. So those were the 2 big things. I went through the other things that we talked about, and that was whether or not we have the locks in the locker. Scott said again the same thing he said on our Edina in Shakopee. Jim Huberty, tell the principals and the coaches how long it will take to change out all those locks if you have to do it every change in sporting season. Jim said that right now at the high school it takes one person 2 full weeks to go and change all the combinations at every locker. So he said it would take me 3 full days to change all those locks in the athletic locker rooms. And Scott goes, that's why you shouldn't do it. Right now, we at the middle school, I did not know this, but we've been buying about $500 worth of locks for our students. And I think what happens then is the students, because we're buying them, they're left on the floor, they're kicked around in the bathrooms, and I said, why are we buying them? Why isn't that, a requirement? And then we have locks for kids who can't afford them, but most of our families right here could afford to buy a $5 lock for our lockers, and for the kids who can't, we'd supply those locks. So anyway, we had some of that discussion as well, but otherwise, everything that we had talked about following our walkthroughs, we had talked about that at that meeting. So those are the two main focal points that we'll talk about again at Tuesday at 1 o'clock, is the Title IX situation for the locker rooms, shower rooms. And they were gonna have some pre-design concepts off of what we had said for us all to look at that meeting. And then the middle school gymnasium, they'll have some analysis of how many one set of bleachers can handle, et cetera. Okay? Any questions? All right.
All right. With that, we'll move on to our action items. The first of which is, could I get a motion and a second to approve the School District 200 10-year long-term facility maintenance revenue plan, which will be submitted to the Minnesota Commissioner of Education?
Second.
All right, is there any discussion?
Again, as I said in an email, these are projected numbers. It's very tough to project out after even 2 or 3 years. Kim rolls things forward as we do projects. We cross them off the list and move them forward. And it's really pretty much that simple.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Could I get a motion and a second to approve the following change in designation of a financial institution for the remainder of 2018 from Merchants Bank to replace Wells Fargo, Minnesota for general receipts?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Could I get a motion to approve the following change in designation of financial institutions for investment purposes for the remainder of 2018? This is also Merchants Bank to replace Wells Fargo, Minnesota.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to share for the public who tunes in and watches is that we do open the process up and we ask them to bid, so to speak. And that's why we're making the change.
Right. Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our fourth action item is a motion to approve the second reading of Policy 515 for the protection and privacy of pupil records. Could I get a motion and a second?
Motion. Second.
Is there any discussion?
And
Tim, you want to share?
we reviewed this at the work session and we walked through it and it was up on the screen. Deanna, can you click it back up there? Basically, the Dakota County Library had come to us and said that one of the things that they needed within our policy was some being able to issue emails to students, et cetera, which would be through their, not their home email address, but their school email address, letting them know about resources through Dakota County Library, et cetera. When first approached about it, I was a little leery about it because I don't mind Dakota County Library asking for it, but other people can ask for this information as well. So we've been very restrictive on it. But we looked at, this language came from this exact language came from 2 neighboring school districts that have it in there. And so Missy and I said, yeah, let's put it in there because we do want the students to have access to the resources at Dakota County Library. Let's put it in there. We don't think it's going to become an issue. I don't think that there's going to be 30 people from the public saying, hey, can I ask for those? And if they do, we'll know who they are and we can follow up on them. So I think as you heard that at the work session, you were comfortable too saying, yeah, let's move forward with it and give kids the access that we want them to have through the system.
And I think I remember from our discussion at the work session that it'd be a limited number of contacts. It wouldn't be,
Yeah.
Like a daily contact with
Right, our
what's
system.
happening today.
Yep,
It
we'd
would
be watching.
Yeah,
you if
we'd
you
know
asked.
who'd asked and we'd know how frequently they were in contact
Yeah.
with students. Okay. All right. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our fifth action item tonight is a motion to approve the 2018 to 2020 contracts for the following employee groups: Teamsters Local 320, which is custodians; Teamsters Local 320 for community education paraprofessionals, and the Hastings Education Secretaries Association. Could I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
All right, is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our sixth action item is a motion to approve payment of $5,000 professional goals incentive to superintendent per Article 9, Section 1 of the 2018-2021 superintendent contract. Could I get a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to comment.
Yeah,
on
thank
this
you.
if I could. So the group of us that meet with Tim on his goals, we work with him to set the goals. We work with the rest of the board to set what we see as appropriate goals for our district and our superintendent. So for the 17-18 calendar year, we had 3 goals, and that was, to nobody's surprise, communication and passage of the bond and levy, ties, and what the future of ties was, what that meant for Hastings, and then a 5-year, which morphed into a 3-year technology plan. So I'd like to comment on these just briefly. So the communication and passage of the bond and levy, obviously Tim was instrumental in that, working with us to create the community facility task force, being in constant contact at the, not in an overbearing way, but to facilitate the communication, the collaboration of that, very timely e-news, et cetera, all around the bond and levy. So meeting with Wold, having very clear plans as to how we were going to spend the bond money if it was approved, very effectively communicating that out to the public as well. I think those were all very key components to getting that passed. The next one was around ties, and really that came about in the last 18 months that ties started becoming something that we needed to deal with. And as I've said at previous meetings, I really appreciate Tim's role in that process, in that he was an advocate not only for what he felt was right, but what was right for Hastings Public Schools, what was right for the taxpayers of the city of Hastings, and really what was right for the taxpayers of the state of Minnesota. So I think he had a bigger voice in that room than many other superintendents, and that really was appropriate and appreciated. And then the final one, we already touched on, the technology plan. There's still some finalization that needs to be done there as we work through things, but I think we're upper percentiles complete on that one as well. So my recommendation and the recommendation of the other 2 committee members was that we mark this as fully achieved and move forward. So that is our recommendation.
Thank you, Scott. That was a very comprehensive summary. Does anybody have any questions or further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our 7th action item tonight is a motion to rescind a general leave for Sandra Meyer for the 2018-19 school year at the request of the employee. Could I get a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Just want to share that there's been a lot of moving parts that have been out of her control as we've been making some other decisions. She had been a teacher at our middle school for several years, had taken a leave, which was granted, was going to take another leave and decided to rescind, and I'm in favor of it, and she'll be at Pinecrest Elementary next year, so I'm in favor of this recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our 8th action item is a motion to rescind the resignation of Michael Schlattman, Special Services Paraprofessional, and to reinstate him for the 2018-19 school year. Could I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next, we have a motion to approve a resolution relating to the termination and non-renewal of the teaching contract of probationary teachers. The the agenda, which is posted online, has the entire resolution. I'd like to request a motion and a second waiving the reading of the whole page.
So moved.
Somebody
Second.
consider that, thank you. Is there any discussion?
I just want
This
to
is a
share,
roll call vote.
yeah,
when it comes to that.
probationary teacher, and sometimes again, it's, there's other moving parts you'll see later on, where there's some individuals who are requesting less of a position, so it creates more of a position at the middle school. And so then we non-renew and we open it up, and she's welcome to apply for that position, and that's what's happened here is non-renewal, and, because we're gonna have a full-time position at our middle school now.
Okay.
Joe Becker.
Yes.
Peter Bussenbach.
Yes.
Scott Kirby.
Yes.
Lisa Dean.
Yes.
Dave Pimble.
Yes.
Russ Roloff. Yes. Chelsea Weeds.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries. Our 10th action item tonight is a motion to approve employee classification review cycle. I'm sorry.
We got a motion and a second to waive the reading, but
Right,
yeah, we
but not-
probably do need a motion and a second to actually approve the resolution.
Okay, then I probably misspoke
So
when I asked for
I-
the original motion. Okay.
I move that we approve the resolution.
Second.
Okay. Do we need to recall?
Redo the,
Probably should.
Okay.
Joe Becker.
Sorry, that was my mistake.
Yes. Peter Bussenbach.
Yes.
Scott Kirby.
yes.
Lisa Dean.
Yes.
Dave Pimble.
Yes.
Russ Roloff. Yes. Chelsea Weeds.
All right. Sorry about that. I'll try and be more articulate the next time I make a special request on my motion. All right. Thanks for the catch, Scott. Our 10th action item, and Deanne. Action item is a motion to approve the employee classification review cycle for pay equity compliance for 2018-19, and there's a list of about 12 employee groups that would be included in that review cycle. Could I get a motion and a second?
Motion. Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Just want to share with board members that Kim brought us this system. We do 25% of all employee groups, so that every 4 years we're analyzing it. And this is the group that's up for this year. We look at it internally, and if we don't see that there's been any major change in their job expectations, they also have the right where they can come forward and say that there has been. So this is just part of the system where every 4 years we rotate through.
Let me look at your checks.
Call the
We need to call a vote. Wow. All right, summer has set in my brain. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our 11th action item tonight is a motion to approve changes to the pay equity review for the following 7 positions, which are also listed in the meeting agenda, if anybody wants to look at them in detail. Could I get a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Just share with board members that the bottom 4 all tie into some of the changes of job expectations in our office area with Kim's retirement and Jen being hired to replace, et cetera. So that's the bottom 4. ABE is the fact that we no longer have a coordinator because we're with South Wash. In our administrative offices, Dave Haveman, Special Services, there's been some change. Number 3 is just really to clarify that anyone in early childhood is a program assistant, whether there's just more of a clarification rather than ECSE, ECFE, et cetera. So that kind of explains the entire group as a whole to you as a board.
Okay. Is there any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our 12th action item is a motion to approve a change in assignment. Could I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our 13th action item is a motion to approve the resignation of a large group of employees. Could I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our 14th action item is a motion to approve the retirement of James McCarthy, a custodian at McAuliffe Elementary, effective 8/31/2018. Could I get a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our 15th action item is a motion to approve the permanent reduction of FTE at the request of the following teaching staff. And this occurs for Robin Keyport from a full FTE at the high school to 2/3 of an FTE.
Mm-hmm.
And Gail Glover, the same move from a full FTE to 2/3 of an FTE from McCullough to the high school. Could I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Just want to let board members know that when employees come to us and ask us for these reductions, it's definitely not automatic. It has to match up with what we believe is in the best interest of the students first and then second them. And in both of these situations, it does match up with how we can realign our staffing. So we are definitely recommending approval.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 16th action item, motion to approve one leave, singular leave. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Sorry. Motion carries. Our 17th action item is a motion to approve an increase in FTE for the 2018-19 school year for the following individuals. And there's 2 listed, again, available in the agenda. Could I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
All those, is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And our final and the 18th motion, action item for today is a motion to approve the employment of, again, a long list of individuals. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Is now the time that we could negotiate with Jen?
Yeah,
Because we already have the resignation.
Yeah.
right?
Oh, this is the moment. This is the
Yeah.
singular
That was our
moment.
chance.
Oh, you mean you're before you?
We have yet to move.
That's
We have
right.
yet to
We
move.
can close this out, we have a little
I was waiting for
negotiation.
her to look up. She just gets
She's
time.
like,
Yep.
wait a minute.
I'm teasing, I'm
That's
teasing.
whether you're going up.
Ah.
That's the only negotiation you can do.
Okay. You know, Kim never asked for her own salary to go up. She only
No,
asked for
I
other
know.
people in
I
this
know.
case, apparently. All right. All right. Is there any actual discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, so our other business for tonight is our next board meeting.
yeah, I just want
Also a
to
work session, right?
share too on, is it next Monday night already?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah, next Monday night at the
Yeah.
high school, for those of you who can make it, not saying that you have to, but, and for the public who's watching, for the unconscious bias brain, 6 o'clock at the high school on the 25th. Then I also want to let board members know that our next board, in July, we don't have a work session. I'm probably 96% certain I'm going to have Deanna listed as a board meeting, then a work session to follow. I believe the board meeting will go quite quickly. Usually it's the Minnesota State High School League approval, milk approval, lunch rates, or some of that.
Yeah.
So we would then go from here to the next room. Also, just want to share with board members that I'd sent you an email earlier in the week about a situation. There's been no other follow-up to that situation, so for me that's good news, because then it's moving forward without concerns from parents being brought forward to me. And once I know more about that situation, I'll fill you in more as board members. So, and with that, I would like to still meet with Scott, Joe, and Russ for just 10 minutes following the meeting, if you have time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Could I get a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.